When I first started the organization, we actually started as the CDO club. So the club started as a membership organization in 2011 on LinkedIn, and we had a few hundred chief digital officers who joined that club. But very quickly it became a club of thousands of members and people who wanted to become a member from all over the world. So in 2013 we decided to make it a global membership site at cdoclub.com instead of just hosting it at LinkedIn. And right now there are a number of benefits to joining the CDO club, such as access to discounted tickets, and every single video from every CDO summit to date is actually available on cdoclub.com. So at this point, the CDO club has 5,000 registered members. My goal is to bring that to 50,000 registered members within 2018. So we have pretty aggressive plans to growing that out. And now at this point, we've created CDO Club global affiliates, such as the one in Japan, which is led by Jun Kamo. And Jun has created not only the CDO Club, but we have a CDO forum today in Tokyo, and we're planning a CDO summit for January 26, 2018, which we're very excited about. Separate from CDO Club, we also have the CDO Summit. So we were the first company ever to create a summit specifically for chief digital officers and chief data officers. And now this year in 2018, we're at the point where we're doing events in 8 or 9 different cities. We have planned, we just did New York, we're about to do Washington, D.C. in July, and then in September we do London, and in October we do Toronto, November we do Los Angeles, and then January we do the Tokyo CDO Summit, and then in March we have Monaco, and in April we have our New York event, which is now running on our 6th year. So what's the big opportunity here? Why are companies looking for chief digital officers? Why have we seen the growth in chief digital officers doubling every year? And really it's all about disruption. Digital disruption has hit every industry. When we first started this, it was really companies that were hiring CDOs were really focused in 4 or 5 sectors: media, publishing, music, entertainment, government, advertising. And I think the reason for that is companies were being disrupted by startups like Napster. So that's why we see this increase in chief digital. Separate from chief digital, we have chief data officers. And one thing that may explain the explosive growth of chief data officer hires is very simple. Data is the lifeblood of the online economy, and every company, not only every company, but even governments need to have chief data officers who are in charge of data sets for the public good, such as in Health and Human Services and Department of Transportation, Department of Energy. The big growth going forward has got to be the Internet of Things. So now we see the industrial internet coming on, where every device that you can imagine possibly being connected to the internet, from your television to your kitchen, your refrigerator in your kitchen and your toaster and your oven, all being connected to the internet. They're also going to bring just a tremendous amount of data into this system. I would forecast that that growth will only continue because it's showing no signs of slowing down. And I also think the opportunity here in Asia, really Jun and the CDO Club Japan is getting in on a ground floor opportunity, not just in Japan, but in neighboring Asian countries such as China and Korea and Singapore and Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, in Jakarta in Indonesia, there's Philippines, in Manila. There's so many opportunities. But not only is the opportunity, but there's a huge challenge for companies and government in Japan and in other countries throughout the world to react to this tremendous disruption. And really they need to move quickly. The wonderful thing about the opportunity now is we can actually learn from other countries and from other companies that have hired chief digital and chief data officers. So hopefully Japan and other countries can leapfrog what other countries have done. And by that I mean in England, for example, some of the best digital transformation in government is happening in the UK. And for example, UK government used to have 3,500 websites. They brought it all down to one. There's just one website now in the government. It's called uk.gov. They want to make government service as easy to use as Google. And in order to do that efficiently, You need to hire on someone who is directly responsible for digital and for data. And same thing in private corporations. Corporations no longer have the opportunity to wait. Entire industries are disappearing. And if you don't take action now, you may not be here a year from now. So I think the opportunity is clear. And some of the ways of doing this would be looking at other companies and other countries that have done this and done it effectively. And the wonderful thing is we can actually take those lessons and apply them here in Japan and hopefully be able to react much more quickly than some of the other countries and companies that don't have digital and data leaders. Over the past 10 years, over 100 chief digital officers have become CEO. We're about to produce a report on this statistic. It's startling in that if you think about the number of CMOs or CIOs who have become CEO, the number is very, very small. And there are hundreds of thousands of CIOs and CMOs in the world. Compare that to the fact that there are only, right now, 2,000 chief digital officers in the world, and yet, despite that small number comparatively, over 100 of those CDOs have become CEO at major corporations. And it just explains the fact that these are very important positions, and anyone who is in charge of taking a company from analog into the digital age, if they do that successfully, they're probably going to be running the show in 2 to 3 years and becoming CEO or president. So I hope that sort of explains the opportunity, but also the challenges and the explanation of why we're seeing so many chief digital officers and chief data officers being hired throughout the world.